Hi everyone, welcome to the first video in a series of me building a garden room slash shed slash workshop. This isn't going to be a how-to guide, this is really more of like a vlog series of me building it. The reason being that I've never done this before. This is the first time I've built anything like this. And also this isn't going to be a how-to guide because, to be honest with you, there are so many good how-to guides and channels dedicated to this. And that's the first thing I want to do. I want to give a shout out to some channels that have really helped me. And if you are thinking about building a shed or a garden room, check out these channels. I would say number one would be Ali Dimmock. He has got an amazing video series on how he built a very substantial garden room. And he covers pretty much everything. I've been going from his video series for a lot of my design choices. So check out him. Another one is the 20th Century Caveman. It's a small channel, but he did a very comprehensive video series of him building a shed. And that was very, very helpful, and he gives lots of very good tips. For all other questions, I would definitely recommend checking out the Garden Room Guru. They are an actual company that are building garden rooms day in, day out, and he's got an amazing channel where he shows exactly how he does it. So I'm going to give a little bit of a backstory and context as to why I decided to do my garden room, my workshop, the way I did. Hopefully this will help someone who is maybe in the same situation as me, because I went backwards and forwards of what to do with my situation. Basically, I've got two existing concrete pads in my garden. They are both 8 foot by 6 foot, and one had a shed and one had a greenhouse on it. Now I was hesitant of what to do with it. I thought the cheapest way is to just obviously knock down the shed and the greenhouse and build a 16 by 6 foot shed. Basically, that would have been the cheapest option. But I thought I'm probably only going to do this once. This is all the space that I've got in the back garden, so I might as well try and maximize the biggest that I can build to, basically. And in the UK, you are limited to 15 meter square. That would have allowed me to build something that is 16 foot in length, but 10 foot in width. So it meant that I would have to build over my concrete pad and onto the paving stones which are next to my concrete pad. If you're building a lightweight shed, you just need to hold some tools in it, things like that. Extending and building over from a concrete pad onto paving stones would have really have not been a problem. But for me, this is going to be a year-round workshop that I'm going to be spending time in. It's going to have some heavy machinery in it in the future, hopefully. So I wanted to build something that would last me many, many years. Now my paving stones, I did dig underneath them and just investigate what was beneath them. And there was about 60 mil of mortar, and then there was just pretty much clay and soil beneath that. So that wasn't really ideal for building a heavy building on top of. You could maybe get away with it, but honestly, as I said, I want this to be sitting there in 50 years time. So from what I read, pretty much get your foundations right. The rest will be much, much easier, especially on the long term. There are a few foundation options that you've got in this type of situation. There are plastic feet that you could use, and they are adjustable, and I could essentially space them out, have them at a certain height on the concrete pad, and then obviously, you know, make up the deviation with the paving tiles because they were all a bit crooked. Something like that would probably be okay for a lightweight workshop. Another option is to obviously rip up everything, and that would have probably been the best option, to just lay a completely new 16 by 10 foot concrete pad. The reason why I didn't do that is the amount of time it would have taken me, and also the cost. To rip up the current concrete pads and to dispose of all of that, I'm in a terrace house, so I don't really have any good side access or anything like that. Getting like a hippo bag and filling up multiple hippo bags would have been, you know, up to like £1,000 in waste. And then obviously I've got to pay for all the materials to actually make the new concrete pad, and that was getting into the thousands just for the foundation. So I decided not to do that. Now there are a few other options that you could do. One is to lay footings, which are, you know, little piers that you can then build your shed foundation on top of. And basically you would dig a hole, and then you can just place, you can get like cardboard forms that you can pour the concrete into, or you can just pour directly into the soil, or make up a box within that hole with some wooden sheets and stuff like that. That is one option. Another option would be to maybe just dig up the paving stones, dig up the mortar, and lay down some MOT Type 1 sub base, and then put maybe some pad stones on top. And if you look at the 20th Century Caveman, and also I believe Ali Dimmock on his build, I think he did use pad stones for that. Another option is the option I went with, which is kind of like in between all of these options in terms of cost and longevity and, I guess, structural rigidity, and that is to lay a concrete trench around, extending out from the current concrete pad that I've got. And then I could use rebar to tie it into the existing concrete pad. So that seemed like a nice in between, because basically all of my my bearers, which were going to be concrete lintels, they were all going to be sitting on concrete foundations. I also chose it because I just wanted to learn how to lay concrete foundations. Again, I've never worked with concrete, I've never worked with digging foundations or anything like that. So it was a good learning experience. So this first video is going to be me laying the foundations. I've got many more videos to come with this. I hope you enjoy it. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask. I'll try and help out anyone. But remember, check out the links in the description for those channels because they are an amazing resource. And also one other thing, if you are based in the UK, I would highly recommend checking out UK Workshop Forum. They have a sub-forum dedicated to workshop builds, and there is a wealth of information in the build threads there as well. So anyway, let's get on with it. We started the project by digging up the old paving slabs and the mortar. I'm just using a sledgehammer and a pry bar, and these paving slabs, they just pop off very easily. I was glad that I did decide to not build over these paving stones and actually dig up and put in a trench, because there wasn't really much sub-base below them and it wasn't compacted at all really. It was very, very crumbly. And I've got my lines marked out just with some marking paint here. And this was pretty easy to do, to be honest with you. The mortar was very crumbly and it just kind of broke apart very easily. I got my string line set up, roughly marking out the area of the trench and the extension of the concrete pad, as you can see here. And then I've just got a stick and I've just measured 30 centimeters on it, and I'm just checking that roughly that trench is 30 centimeters deep all along. Unfortunately, I am in a terrace, so I don't have any sort of side access. I did have to bring, I think it was 4 tons of sub-base and ballast through my house. It was quite a lot to do, and to be honest with you, this is another reason why I wish that I just went with 4 inches of sub-base and 4 inches of concrete base, because just those extra 2 inches on top of each one, it just added so much unnecessary work. More importantly, so much more cost to this concrete base. I actually did underestimate how much I would need, and I had to order another batch in. It's going to be obviously rock solid and it's going to easily support my shed, but I think if anyone is building a shed or a garden room in their garden, go with just the tried and tested 4 inches of sub-base and 4 inches of concrete for your foundations. It is more than enough. After I put in the 6 inches of sub-base, I realized it was just complete overkill really. Once I've got it all set in, it's time to tamp it down. I didn't have an automatic tamper. I just had to do this by hand. It takes a while, but just try and get it as compact as possible. Now it's time to install some rebar dowels, and this was to connect the old concrete base with the new one. I've just got a dowel SDS drill here. I've got a 16mm drill bit, and I'm putting in 1/2 inch rebar dowels. I'm just cutting these, and I'm using some raw plug. This is their anchor resin, and this stuff is amazing. It sets in just a few minutes because I got the winter version, because I'm doing this in the winter. It is colder, and I'm guessing it's probably got a little bit more catalyst in it because it sets very, very quickly. You can see here, this was literally just a few minutes of pouring it out. Now it's time to start installing the forms for the concrete. I've got just a mixture of pallet wood and just some other bits of wood to make these. You don't need to use any good wood. And I'm just using the old concrete base as a reference. It was a little bit difficult to get it all level because I've got 2 old concrete pads. They were installed one at a time. It's not just one big pad. They are a little bit different, and there is a drop to them as well. So it was difficult to get this level as much as possible. But after spending a day doing this, I thought, yeah, sod it, let's just go ahead with it. I'm just installing some rebar reinforcement here, and I've got this just connected into those dowels, and also I've got some rebar dowels at the other end of the trench as well, so it's all tied in. You can see how it is here, and I've just got some plastic razors here just to lift up the rebar so it isn't just sitting on the bottom of the concrete base, which is really important. So here was the day of mixing the concrete, and I put this off for a good few weeks because I was very nervous about doing it. I've never done anything like this before, and I was just thinking, what happens if it starts to rain, if you don't have enough ballast, you run out of materials. But I was just overthinking it. It was actually just very, very easy. Unfortunately, the concrete mixer, it didn't come with a stand. Well, it did, but it was broken, so I had to do it pouring it into the concrete pad, and then I had to move it along with a rake. But I got there in the end. It was a very long day, but yeah, you can easily do this by yourself. It would certainly have been much bigger of a job if I was laying down a completely new concrete pad. And I think that you'd probably need 2 cement mixers on the go if you did want to do this. And preferably you'd probably need someone loading up the cement mixers as you're pouring it. Now, luckily I think this was around about September, October time, we had quite a lot of rain. So I didn't need to worry about keeping this concrete pad and the trench wet, but If you are laying concrete, you need to keep it wet in order for it to fully cure. Do not let it dry out. Taking off the forms, very easy. I've just got a chisel and a hammer here, and they're just popping off. And I was really happy with how this come out. It looks even better than the ones that were installed previously. Overall, I was just massively overthinking it, and I'm very happy with how this come out. I've now got a rock solid foundation to start building this shed on top of.